Government isn't the most decent and least
Indecent.
corrupt government in the world.
Indecent is the word, right? Sorry. Okay,
yeah.
I got it. Sure.
But they not only after that, they have a real wide spectrum.
But they're picking.
Social causes, political causes, world causes.
But they're picking.
everything.
But it seems like they're picking their battles. You know, they're picking these battles
Yes.
with what they see as the far left. And I mean, does it go all the way back to when, you know, the shall we say, de facto president Kaczynski's twin brother died in a plane crash, and then there's just been conspiracy against the far left? I mean, is that sort of the genesis of it? Because it seems like a lot of people are just overwhelmingly paranoid in the ministry that their government will collapse by what they see as the far left. And I mean, there's no consensus. It's the real problem, right?
Well, that's just one of the tricks the government uses to get rid of the TVN, because they don't want to give them the conscience, the concession. God knows why, in fact.
And with this bill, I mean, most people think it's the first step of a real clampdown
Yes.
of whatever vestiges of democracy you may have, right? That's really the essence of it. And then there's a fear that whatever strides it's made in the last 30 years are just going to go to the wayside.
Exactly. It is already, in fact, it is, and it's been for the last 5 years.
But it's strange because, you know, there have been certain strides, you know, with a lot of, shall we say, political prisoners in neighboring countries, like in Belarus, for example, or even Ukraine, that they're given safe haven in Poland. So in some ways there's, I mean, I know it's a public relations push, but there are some elements that are opening up, no? I mean...
I don't think so. As far as I know, those people who are in government now, who are the powers that be, they never spoke the word of truth in their lives. So if they gave safe haven to refugees,
it's for political purpose. Yeah.
I don't have paranoia really, but it's not meant because they pity the poor refugees, but
I mean,
there's a means to some weird end which we don't see now. Let's put it that way.
And these cops who are out here now, I mean, are they just, shall we say, foot soldiers for some? I mean, I'm not trying to pick a fight, but are they just sort of like apolitical, and or are they sort of like against this movement, you know, on the other side, or are they just you know?
Well, they're just police, right?
Security, yeah.
They have the orders, so they must stand here.
But is there a genuine fear in most progressive polls that things are just gonna
Go down the drain? Yeah.
I mean, and what do your pins mean? Your pins?
Pins? So these are pins from the big protests from the former years. This is, as you can see, from 2016, and it says "Stop devastating Poland." And this is from 2018, and it was a big march, really big, some like 500,000 of people in Warsaw itself.
In 2018. What year was
in
it?
2018, yeah.
Which month?
And
May
it says
12th.
a March of Freedom.
And specifically, that was protesting.
Specifically,
Same type of.
we already saw what this government was doing and just protested against.
But with Donald.
No specific cause, just against.
But with certain, shall we say, progressive forces coming in, whether it's Donald Tusk or Radek Sikorski or somebody, is there some degree of hope that there are like individual candidates who can challenge and get the majority? And even the mayor in Warsaw got 49%. I mean, it was split in the last vote.
Well,
we know?
Some say he in fact got 51%, but let's forget it.
Who says that? Or was that written? It's okay.
Well, that's
Understood. Yeah.
From private mails of some of the ministers that got out. I don't know if it's true. But judging from my soul, then at the presidential elections, I can very well believe.
But you don't get the sense that this government and these ministers sort of sway when public opinion is going a certain way? Because it seems like during the pandemic they kind of were just kind of improvising until until they were forced into doing something that maybe they didn't want to do at first, and then they just sort of did. And
kind of, yeah.
So
you put it right. My private opinion is that they got themselves into the corner.
right,
They
push
can't really
themselves.
move anywhere from there. So they can only stand stubbornly without noticing reality around them, without noticing public protests, stuff like that.
But
Because they know that if they move towards people now,
right.
sooner or later they'll be in jail. And they'll be. Maybe later than sooner, but they'll be. For now, they still.
But do they all deserve to be in jail, or is it just like a handful of those that are making private deals? And just one question, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Do you think there's a Russian element? Do you think some of these ministers have any funding from certain Russian elements? I've talked to my colleagues in Hungary, and they're pretty certain there is. So.
Again, I'm not a big fan of conspiracy theories, but it's possible.
And what would they? What would they have to gain for that? I mean, with all of, with all this nationalistic talk and all these commemorations for independent Poland, what would they have to gain for? Is it just fear, just money, bottom line?
Well,
in your mind,
if we don't know what it is about, it's usually about money.
Right. But one last thing, you mentioned that a lot of elderly were here yesterday. Is it just because of youngsters are apathetic? Because I've seen them in other protests, for women's rights and things like that. So, I mean, I'm just curious why you think there were more elderly yesterday.
I put it that way.
Because bills are boring, right?
Yeah. Bills
Government
are
boring,
is boring. The youngsters, in fact, don't remember how it was before under the communistic regime, before '89. So they don't care.
They weren't even born.
They weren't
Most
even
of
born.
them.
So they don't know. We middle-aged and elderly remember that, don't want it back, and that women's protest was what moved the youngsters, in fact.
Because it was present. It was present.
Because they realized that
it was a present
that
movement.
touches themselves too.
Right. It was a present movement. And
Okay, now it's holiday season.
right.
Now it's stupid time of the day. People are at work mostly, but in
Right.
September, October, I think we'll see many youngsters and protests.
And what do you expect? The next 2 to 5 months. I mean, will be like early elections? Will there be some type of referendum or some type of?
Sorry, not referendum. Elections.
I mean, what's going to happen to TVN is really what I'm going to say, because are they just trying to push them out entirely, or is that just the fear of a lot of demonstrators that any type of dissent will be pushed aside? Because there are still free media. I mean, there are still independent media.
Still.
I'm just I just want. There's so many weird details in these laws that you have to.
Well, they
look
make
with a
it
fine-tooth
complicated
comb.
so nobody understands them, right?
Sorry?
They make them complicated, the laws, so nobody understands them.